Okay, so last time we were talking about the root condition and we started to read the text, and we had enough time to look at the first two answers, the relationship between kusala and kusala and kusala and abhyakata. So just to remind you, so for the relationship between kusala and kusala, the wholesome states, between wholesome and wholesome states, there was a statement that wholesome state is related to wholesome state by root condition, and the explanation of that statement is that the wholesome roots are related to their associated aggregates by root condition. So that means that whatever states are arising together with the roots function for these states, co-arising states, as nourishment. They support these co-arising states as roots support the tree. So I think it's quite clear the three wholesome roots. They are related to the four mental aggregates that arise together with them. Okay, so for the wholesome kutubya relationship, wholesome and indeterminate, we have a statement that wholesome state is related to indeterminate state by root condition. And explanation of that is wholesome roots are related to mind-produced matter by root condition. So, and then we looked at we looked a little bit wider at the matter in Abhidhamma in general, and at the mind-produced matter especially. So let's just quickly remember that there are 28 kinds of matter, and 8 of them arise always together. So we, in any kind of matter, we will have these 8 always. So that is hardness, cohesion, temperature, and pressure. And color, odor, flavor, and nutrition, they arise always, and they're called 8 inseparables. All right, and there are 24 derivative matters, sensitivities, objective phenomena, sex determining, materiality, heart-based, life faculty, and nutrition. And 10 non-concrete matter, that means these are more like characteristics of the matter or the mode of arising of the matter. Not really something concrete, but just a mode of the manifestation of matter. Okay, and then, so I just listed here the causes for rupa to arise. And in general, we normally divide them in temperature-born, mind-born, karma-born, and nutriment-born. But in Patana, the classification is a little bit wider. And here, in our kusala to abhyakata relationship, we have mind-produced matter, chitta samutthana. Okay, so of this, so we have the 8 inseparables, okay, and we have sound in addition to that, and we have intimations, bodily and vocal intimation. That means like speech and or gestures or movement, bodily movement, and lightness, malleability, and wilderness. And these 3 actually arise when the 3 conditions are balanced in the body. So when there is a balance between the temperature, nutrition, and the mind, these 3 can arise. Okay, so these are this in blue, these are mind-born matters. And so they can be co-arise with wholesome roots, okay, and can be influenced by these wholesome roots. So this is all in, in like theory and classification and a little bit dry, but practically, I think it's very easy to understand that when, say, metta, like friendliness, arises in the mind, and we act, we communicate with the other person will feel it and see it. And how he will feel it? He will see our bodily appearance, he will see the friendly smile, and he will see in our eyes, basically, he will see that there is friendliness. Okay, so this is just how that metta influences our vocal intimation, our bodily intimation. Okay, and the sound, right? So, and other connascent metta. Okay, so that's the practical part of it. And then the next the next answer is wholesome state is related to wholesome state and indeterminate state by root condition. So these are basically, this is the combination of the first two. Okay, wholesome roots are related to their associated aggregates and mind-produced matter by root condition. So if you remember the first two, you will see that the first was wholesome roots are related to their associated aggregates. And the second one was the wholesome roots are related to mind-produced matter by root condition. So here is just a sum of two. Okay, why do we do this? Why is this repetition there at all? Yeah, one may ask. I was asking this question when I first saw it, when I was first time introduced to Padhana. So I'll just go back, and you remember that we investigate all kinds of different permutations and combinations if they can relate to each other by a particular condition or not. So we, as if we would be asking questions, can wholesome Dhamma be related to wholesome Dhamma? Can wholesome Dhamma be related to unwholesome Dhamma? Abhyakata Dhamma to kusala and abhyakata to akusala and abhyakata. So in this case, the answers that we get for kusala Dhamma, we have seen the kusala Dhamma can be related to kusala Dhamma. We have seen the kusala Dhamma can be related to abhyakata Dhamma. And now we see that there is an answer, kusala Dhamma can be related to kusala and abhyakata Dhamma. So this is why we make this statement separately, just to show that there is this possibility of relationship as well. Okay, so, okay, here. And so as this is just a combination of the first two, so I will not go into details. I think it's quite clear. So the wholesome roots are alobha, dosa, amoha, so non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion that arise with wholesome consciousness. And the associated aggregates are on the conditioned side, so they will be influenced, they will be nourished by this alobha, adosa, amoha, and as well as the mind-produced matter, the connascent, the mind-produced matter that arises together with this alobha, adosa, amoha, will be nourished by that alobha, adosa, amoha. All right, so I think this is just really mostly repetition, and repetition condition helps to understand, helps to assimilate information. So I will try to repeat things so that we can become familiar with them and comfortable with hearing the terms and with understanding. Okay, the root condition. Okay, so the next what we are going to investigate is unwholesome to unwholesome. Well, all unwholesome, which states can be related to unwholesome? So there are three answers as well as for wholesome. So unwholesome to unwholesome, unwholesome to indeterminate, and unwholesome to unwholesome and indeterminate. So this one is unwholesome to unwholesome. And just in the same way as we have seen with wholesome, unwholesome state is related to unwholesome state by root condition. So akusala dhamma, akusala sadhamma, sa hetupaccayo napaccayo. This is just a general statement. So it just states that there is this possibility, and then there is a classified answer which explains which actually are the states that relate in this way. So they are unwholesome roots. So unwholesome roots, akusala hetu, are related to their associated aggregates, sampayutakanam khandana, hetupaccayo napaccayo by root condition. Okay, so, and here we just have an opposite situation. So we have the unwholesome roots, the lobha, dosa, and moha, the greed, hatred, and delusion. And the associated aggregates are the mental aggregates, the four mental aggregates, the four khandhas: feeling, perception, volitional formations, and consciousness. So just in the same way as we have seen with the wholesome, lobha, dosa, and moha are feeding, supporting the co-arising state and producing also. So you remember the conditioning state can be either a producing cause or supporting cause, or it can be both. So in this case, it's both. It produces, so because greed arises, so all it cannot arise together. It arises together with all the four. It cannot arise alone. No, it arises together with the other mental aggregates, with a feeling, with perception, with consciousness, and formations. Okay, so and when it arises, it becomes, it makes them to arise, and it supports them, it feeds them. So this is how this relationship manifests. All right, so the next one is again just like we have seen in the kusala to abhyakata. So here we have akusala to abhyakata. So unwholesome state is related to indeterminate state by root condition. Akusala dhamma, abhyakata sadhamasa, hetupaccayo napaccayo. So unwholesome roots are related to mind-produced matter by root condition, just as it was above. In the same way, unwholesome roots, they are lobha, dosa, moha, are related to mind-produced matter. Okay, so here I have specified that these can arise only in sense sphere, obviously. Well, obviously, in the way that only. Oh, why? That's actually, I made a mistake. But what I meant is lobha, dosa, moha, they are only sense sphere. I will delete this statement. They're only sense sphere phenomena, because lobha can arise also in a Brahma realm, say in arupa, in rupa, say it's in a fine material realm. Still, lobha can arise. Dosa cannot arise, but lobha, moha can arise, and it will influence that fine matter, that matter, Brahma's matter, mind-born matter. So okay, so I better delete this statement, and we'll just say that this lobha, dosa, moha that arise with unwholesome consciousness, maybe in five aggregate world. Okay, so in the world where there are five aggregates, where there is also matter, because so in this way we will exclude the immaterial spheres, the Brahma worlds where there is no matter. So okay, so these four rules that arise with unwholesome consciousness in the world of five aggregates. How you write that? Aggregates. And consciousnesses in the world with, okay, with five, in the worlds with five aggregates. Okay, and then the mind-produced matter. Okay, just here I pointed out what this mind-produced matter can do. It can maintain bodily posture, and it can produce bodily and vocal activity. So again, just as say metta or adosa would influence your voice and your bodily actions, yeah, like your appearance. In the same way, lobha, dosa, moha will influence these factors. So maybe the easiest and the most obvious example would be of dosa. So when the anger arises, we see, right, how it produces not only that externally we will see an angry person, his face like ugly, whatever, the voice rough. We can see how anger feeds all these manifestations. But also, if say the dosa arises in us, we can feel like hot, for example. So this heat is a mind-produced matter. Yeah, this temperature arises because of the dosa, and dosa feeds this kind of matter, and we feel hot, say. Okay, so then the next point is relationship between akusala and abhyakata. So again, just as we have seen above, we combine the previous 2 points, and we have that unwholesome state is related to wholesome state and indeterminate state by root condition. So the previous 2 statements are combined. Okay, and the explanation is that unwholesome roots, that is lobha, dosa, moha, are related to the associated aggregates and mind-produced matter by root condition. Okay, so it's clear, no? We take the whole situation together, that the lobha, dosa, moha will feed, will support, will nourish the co-arising mental aggregates and the mind-produced matter that arises together with it. Okay, so next is indeterminate to indeterminate, and it's a little bit different from the previous 6. Let's read. So indeterminate state is related to indeterminate state by root condition. So abhyakato dhamma, abhyakata sadhamma, hetupaccayo, general statement. Now the explanation is resultant indeterminate and functional indeterminate roots are related to associated aggregates and mind-produced matter by root condition. So this is similar to here, to the previous point, to point number 6. Okay, where we had unwholesome roots are related to associated aggregates and mind-produced matter by root condition. So here, let's see. So vipaka abhyakata and kirya abhyakata hetu. So the resultant and functional indeterminate roots. So to understand what it talks about, we have to remember the consciousness that we have seen before. So I don't have my slides open now, but I'll try just in general to remind you that we were talking that wholesome roots, or not wholesome, sorry, the alobha, dosa, moha, so non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion can arise with wholesome consciousness, but it can also arise with indeterminate consciousness. It can arise, for example, in the mental processes of arahants. So for arahant, there is no more wholesome consciousness arising, because wholesome means it produces good result. So it will give result in the future. And for arahant, there is no future rebirth. So there is no result in the future. So in his mental continuum, there is no more wholesome consciousness, but alobha, adosa, amoha still arise. So instead of wholesome consciousness, the consciousness that arises in his mental process we call kirya. It's functional. It just performs its function. So it just performs the function without generating new karma. So these roots, alobha, dosa, moha, that arise in an arahant, they will be functional, indeterminate roots. Okay, and for the resultant indeterminate roots, so when our wholesome karma is giving result as a rebirth consciousness, the rebirth consciousness will be similar to the wholesome consciousness that of the action which is giving the result. So if in the wholesome consciousness, in the wholesome consciousness there is always alobha, dosa, and there can be or present or can be absent amoha, panya. So the resultant consciousness will also have aloba and adosa, and it may or may not have amoha. So when this kind of resultant consciousness arises with these roots, so this is what is meant here. The roots that arise together with the consciousness that is a result of wholesome action. Okay, as a rebirth consciousness and as a consciousness that maintains the life continuum of someone reborn in a good world, right? Yeah. Okay. So, and then the next point is more different, and let's read. At the moment of conception, so patisandhikane, resultant indeterminate roots are related to associated aggregates and karma-produced metta by root condition. So we have many new things here. One thing we have the moment of conception. And then we have katatarupa, we have the karma-produced metta. So let's look first at what is this karma-produced metta. So just in the beginning of this lecture, I mentioned that there are 4 causes for metta. Temperature, mind, karma, and nutrition. So now we are talking about karma-produced metta. So the 8 mettas, the 8 inseparables, if you remember the 4 great elements, and color, odor, taste, and nutrition, they always arise. So they can be karma-produced. But on top of that, what is karma-produced? Okay, so our sensitivities. So the eye sensitivity, ear, nose, tongue, body, it's all karma-produced. And our sex, that is whether feminine or masculine, it depends also on karma. So it's a karma-born materiality. The hadaya base, that is hadaya vatu, that is the base for the mind to arise, support, physical support for our mind to arise, just like eye sensitivity is a physical support for eye consciousness to arise. In the same way, the heart sensitivity is a support for mind consciousness to arise. Okay, and life faculty, jivitindriya. That is what is maintaining the rupa. Because karma, actually, when it gives result only at conception. Okay, so when it is in just this initial state, but this karma-born materiality continues throughout the life until one dies. And jivitindriya is that which maintains this karma-born materiality and allows it to arise continuously until the moment of death. If we could give an analogy, so if a karma is like mother, real mother, then for these materialities, then jivitindriya is like fostering mother. Yeah, it keeps feeding it, keeps maintaining the karma-born materiality. Okay, so now we can look at the moment of conception. So the first word was patisandhikane, at the moment of conception. So what happens at the moment of conception? So at the moment of conception, 2 things generally arise. Rebirth consciousness and the karma-produced materiality. That's in the 5 aggregate world. Okay, so so rebirth consciousness will be the vipaka, will be the resultant consciousness. And for the materiality, in the sensual realm, in Abhidhamma, beings are classified according to how, like depending on how they are born. So if they are born, like we, like people, or like many animals, like dogs, I don't know, for example. So what arises in the moment of conception is bodily sensitivity, kaya pasada, sex, that is female or masculine, and heart base. So a base for the mind to arise. Okay, so these three things arise at the moment of conception, and they are karma born. Okay, so then we have another kind of beings that can arise spontaneously. Spontaneously means without mother and father. For example, again, according to Abhidhamma's teaching, in the heavenly worlds or in health or in ghost realm, one arises spontaneously. It doesn't need to wait to be born, as we have to wait to develop, for the body to develop and be born in the human realm. So when the deva is born, it already has fully developed all sensitivities. When a being in the hell is born, it already has all sensitivities, generally. Okay, and a heart base, which maintains the mind. Okay, and there are also moisture born, like worms in water. I don't know. This is, I think this is based on Indian classification of those times. Okay, and then in the fine material, that's where Brahmas are born. So if you practice meditation now, and you attain jhana, and you maintain your jhana until the moment of death, then you can be reborn in a fine material realm, so as a Brahma, and there the situation is much better than in the human realm, because you don't have bodily consciousness, so there is no bodily pain. So that's nice. But what you have ear sensitivity and eye sensitivity. Why? That allows you, if a Buddha arises in the world, that allows a Brahma to see the Buddha and to hear a Dhamma talk, and hopefully to make an end to suffering. So, okay, so at the moment of conception for the Brahma, also heart base arises and life faculty. For Brahmas, they don't need to eat to live. Actually, they sustain themselves on piti. So on this rapture that is born from meditation, from concentration. So that is their food. But to maintain the rupa, their fine matter, what performs that function is life faculty, Jivitindriya. And for non-percipient Brahmas, what arises at the moment of conception is life faculty only. So there is also a realm of very actually high realm of non-percipient Brahmas. So some ascetics in Buddha's time, they thought that the main problem for our suffering is mind. So because we have mind, we are suffering. So they practice well their meditation, and they develop their concentration very well. And with a well-developed concentration, they make a determination. They make this adhitthana, this wish that they don't want to have the mind. So forcefully, they cut the mind, and they are reborn as a non-percipient Brahmas, like stones, So, and life there, according to Abhidhamma, is very, very long. And their plane, again, according to this cosmology, is together with the highest fourth jhana plane, aviha plane. So the Brahmas there, so there are other Brahmas, so they can see these non-percipient Brahmas, but these non-percipient ones, they only have life faculty. But after so they cannot see or they cannot know anything. But after that karma which produced that life is finished, and life faculty doesn't persist anymore, they are reborn again in a lower realm. So that's not the end of the suffering. Okay, so this is what kinds of materiality arise at conception. So for us, for human beings, just to repeat, we have bodily sensitivity, sex, determining materiality, and hard base. Okay, so let's look at the text again, just to put it all together. So at the moment of conception, all right, resultant indeterminate roots. So this aloba, dosa, and if there is amoha that arise together with the rebirth consciousness, which is a result of previously done wholesome, of previously arisen wholesome consciousness, which had these roots. Okay, so are related. So these roots are related to the associated aggregates. So because we have at the moment of conception, we have a resultant consciousness, a rebirth consciousness arising. So consciousness never arises alone. It arises together with other three aggregates. So in total, 4 immaterial aggregates. And these 4 immaterial aggregates are feeded, are nourished by these indeterminate roots. Okay, and so these indeterminate roots are related to karma-produced matter by root condition. Okay, so these roots also nourish this karma-produced matter at the moment of conception. These things, all these 3 things, they arise together at the moment of the conception. Okay, so now what I have done, I have put this text together, just this for root condition that we have looked at, and what I would like to do, I would like to play you the chanting. Okay. The Wakin's chanting, because it's all, this is why we are doing this. So before it goes all the way, I'll just explain about the pronunciation. So Myanmar way of pronunciation Pali is heavily influenced by the system of writing that they use, and it's not exactly the same as we have in the Romanized Pali, or in Sinhalese or in Thai. So they have their own way of pronunciation. So for you to be able to follow, you have to know that, for example, pachayo, they pronounce as pisayo. So this ch, they pronounce as s. And because it's double, it becomes is, whatever, because of the way of system of writing. I will not go into more detail, but anyway, so it will be pisayo. And maybe just this much. I think maybe the rest you should be able to understand. And I'll just play, and I will tell you what is what. So this chanting starts with the invitation to the devas. So Samantha Chakavali Sotraka Chantu Deva. Now is the time to listen to the Dhamma. And this is repeated 3 times. Okay, so that was invitation to the devas. And now Seiji will first read the title. So when we started this course, this is what I put on the screen, is the title of where this text is. Okay, listen. Abhidhamma Pitaka. Dhamma no loma tika patana. Panyawara, no? Okay, Pecha no loma vibhava. Hetupaccayo. Okay.
Udala Hedu Tambio Sanam Pananam Hedu Sina Sisio. Udala the Modiagda, the Manda Hedu Sina Sisio. Udala Hedu Sega the Mutanam Wanam Hedu Sina Sisio. Udala the Mobula Lazavia Dada Manda Hedu Sina Sisio. Udala Hedu Tambio Sanam Pananam Sega the Mutanam Wanam Hedu Sina Sisio. Agudala the more Agudala the Manda Hedu Sina Sisio. Agudala Hedu Tambio Sanam Pananam Hedu Sina Sisio. Agudala the more Agudala the Manda Hedu Sina Sisio. Agudala Hedu Sega the Mutanam Wanam Hedu Sina Sisio. Agudala the more Agudala the Manda Hedu Sina Sisio. Agudala Hedu Tambio Sanam Pananam Sega the Mutanam Wanam Hedu Sina Sisio. Aliaga Lord Bon, the Agada, the Mother, Hedu Sina Sisio. We pass our Yagada, Yagada, Hedu Tambio Sanam Pananam Sega Long and Ninja Rubanam Hedu Sina. But in the Nikne, we pass our Yagada, Hedu Tambio Sanam Pananam Kadasa Rubanam Hedu Sina.
Okay, so now next time when you hear this, you will know, all right, what is going on. So first, what is being explained is the root condition. So if you want to make it a little bit more practical for yourself, try to see how when the greed, hatred delusion, or non-greed, non-hatred delusion, when they arise in you, how they feed whatever is present or whatever is arising at the same time, how it feeds, how it supports, how it nourishes these co-arising states. Okay, how it manifests, how it influences the other dhammas that arise in the same time. Just analyze. You can see how this kind of relationship works. Okay, and we have less than a minute left, so I'm happy we finished the root condition, and the next time then we will take the next condition, which will be the object condition, Aramanapachya. Okay, so I'm wishing you a very good Sunday.